Welcome to Planning Ahead, Preparing Business Plans for CCF. I suppose the idea of this session is not to tell you exactly every element that should be in a business plan, but more so to understand the why we are asking for these business plans with multi-year funding and some top tips along the way. So, first things first, I suppose, what is a charitable business plan to you? Have it up in the chat and we'll have a read through. Fab. Awesome. Amazing. So a strategy document, the what, why, when, and how. Nice, Kathy. Clear objectives in terms of delivery, how to fund it. Yep, those smart, achievable aims with a costed element, description of positioning, intent, and resources required. Action plan for business, including objectives, delivery, and timescales. Fab. So yeah, a lot of it is that multifaceted, lots of elements really that can be involved in the business plan. A quote I tend to quite like is it being a roadmap for how your charity will make a difference, raise money and stay sustainable. I really like that term roadmap because I'm a bit of a visual learner and it's almost imagining that map that you're going through and there's going to be lots of different roads to take. But ultimately those three aims: make a difference, raise money, stay sustainable. Took this one from the NCVO of actually what a business plan is at its core. You can see again, there's lots of elements. A big one there, I'd say, is it's a live document that you refer to regularly and which can be changed and updated. I refer to this a lot when we talk about constitutions, of it very much then being that live document that you're always referring back to. What is our aims? What's our core? Where are we going? A tool to help you guide your actions and steer towards your aims. Of course, a great way to showcase your organisation, passion and creativity. So you've got that document there to really showcase this is who we are. An opportunity to work out your finances and demonstrate your financial sustainability. That's a big one there, especially when you're thinking about this multi-year funding of sustainability. It's not a, oh gosh, what's in our accounts, let's go and have a look. You're very clear of where your finances are and how you're going to sustain it through those multi-years. A way of showing how you achieve your social impact, so thinking about those impacts, outcomes, and a statement of where you are now, but also where you want to be. I think that's a big thing within the business plan. So I suppose then go into, well, why is CCF asking for a charitable business plan for multi-year funds? This is very much not to say that now there is going to be millions of multi-year funds coming from CCF. It's very much a work in progress of where we would like to develop and create more and more multi-year funds. And as we've been doing that, I suppose we've realised that our general applications aren't fully fitting to it. A lot of our application process is those sort of year-long projects, very clear end and an end of grant report. So we couldn't quite capture that whole sustainability element and that multi-year part of it without having a bit more of a business plan for that. So when opportunities of multi-year funds do come about, we are then asking for that additional business plan, whether that's 3-year business plan, 5-year, something to reflect the multi-year fund opportunity. But if we can pass on the skills now, pass that nugget of information, hopefully there'll be a multi-year funding opportunity and you're all ready to go. So you can understand why I'm probably talking about sustainability a lot, because that's going to be that big difference beyond our usual year-long funds to this multi-year funding. What's the difference between a strategy and a business plan? A strategy, I always think, imagine that is your big picture thinking, where we then want to be. But the business plan is going to go into that little bit further detail to show the how, the blueprint, the wiring, the plumbing of the house. You can see here I've put on CCF strategy for 2025 to 2030. It's a good read. But what we then do is every year we have a business plan that's going to develop and change. It's that constant living, breathing document that we look back on. And so I put there, why have a business plan? I'd say the process of the business plan is as important as the plan itself. One thing I really enjoy that we do in Cornwall Community Foundation is that we always sit down together and review the business plan. We'll review it in different stages with different parts of the team. And it really is then that collaborative process, because ultimately, if you've got a team, whether you're volunteers, staff, trustees, you're all going to have different parts of what you do and different expertise. So if you're writing the business plan and writing about the community outreach, it makes sense to talk to the community outreach officer. So using those skills, developing it together, and then it can be a fun process because you're all part of this gathered document of, okay, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? Really, you can see that passion then in the document itself. So, sort of giving an outline of what it could involve. I'm not going to say it must be like this, but sort of having those sort of pinpoints in it. I'm sure Jill will clarify some of these a bit later on. But first off, I suppose you'd want a bit of an executive summary, so a mission statement, a bit of who we are. This is our core. And a mission statement is just always great to go back to go, right, okay, what are we actually doing here? An organisational overview, so you might talk about your legal structure, your history, background, how you came about, how you're governed, what leadership process you have. So you might talk about trustees or the management team, staff, etc. Then looking at the needs that you're addressing or the problems that you're addressing. So what is it that you found that is an issue in your area, in your expertise? Have some evidence and data to support that and back it up. Highlight who your target beneficiaries are. And then talk about the, I suppose, the how you do it. Description of core projects and initiatives, how you're delivering that and the delivery model. And a great one to highlight is that expected outcomes and social impact, not just of this is what we do, but this is really the impact and the core of what we do. Maybe a bit of market analysis. So how have you found that there's gaps in current provision? There may not be gaps. You might have other groups and you're working partnership with them to really highlight what you're good at, I suppose. I've highlighted those two because that's the thing that funders will, of course, be looking at, that sort of financial side. So making it clear that you've got an income strategy, you've thought about the sources of income, where they're coming from, where you plan to get them from. How are you going to diversify some of those income streams? Are you with CIC and so you've found different ways to be able to make some money to put back into the CIC? And a financial plan, so a budget forecast, 3 to 5 years, and a big one, that's sustainability. Have you got a reserve strategy? How are you going to financially be sustainable? How do you plan to do that? Took a little example here, got permission from Cornwall Pride. What I really liked, this came through, is just to show, I suppose, the simplicity that it can involve. I've taken out the content here, didn't have to, it's a public facing document, but it's because I really wanted to focus the content. Actually, that's going to be very specific to Cornwall Pride. What is interesting in this, I found, is the structure. So, of course, it's got its summary, sort of a mission statement, but taken down those 3 years into those subheadings, and within that, looking strategically at the how, embedding those financial goals, quite liked. It doesn't all have to be a separate thing. And obviously, the information that you need, not every financial confidential information, and how they're going to do that within the community. Had some KPIs, so knowing how they're going to measure the outcomes and that risk management as well. Quite like that section, but that may be combined with then an additional financial plan together, but it's not extensive. It can be as extensive as you need and as you want. It's your document. What to focus on? I thought this was interesting. And of course, your business plan has so many different functions. Of course, you're going to construct it how you would want, but it's also good to keep in mind, okay, who's it going to? Why? Who's reading it, I suppose. And we very much fit on that top one of being the funder, what we should focus on. So we're looking at those outcomes and your impact. So what you're doing is having a difference. And so therefore, is it also value for money? So looking at that financial side, because we are dealing with money and funding. Had a little bit of fun editing wise, I suppose, on this. This came from the idea from Lisa, just in the middle there, that in past funding that she's had a look at with that multi-year, with that business plan, she tends to think of it as Dragon's Den style. There are other TV shows. But yeah, I'm picturing us there in Dragon's Den, and this business plan is your pitch, I suppose, of this is who we are, this is where we want to go. And within that, probably highlighting a couple of questions. Yes, but clearly, what do you do? That clearly stating your objectives. How are you good at what you do? So that might be really showing your impact. A bit of your USP, I suppose, of okay, why do we work? Why are we good at what we do? What risks are involved? I think that's very important to have a look at because there always is risk involved in any group, and we as funders are also taking risks. But if you're clearly showing in your business plan, you know what risks are involved, or you've considered them, then again, that's the sustainability factor. What are your aims to develop and grow for the next 3 years? So yes, that forward thinking, that bigger picture blueprint of what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. But the biggest one, I suppose, here is how will you be sustainable and not reactive? A lot of our projects are that year, and so can become reactive to, well, this is what we need now. Whereas a multi-year fund requires that sustainability, because we want to know that if we've given a 3-year fund, that you're still going to be there in 3 years to carry on that work. And so that's why we thought we needed this charitable business plan as an extra documentation, so you can really show the sustainability and that you thought beyond perhaps reactive project. Fab. So I'm going to pass it on to Jill. She's going to give you some more top tips from her expertise.
So business plans, I've worked with quite a few reasonable charities, reasonably sized charities and reasonably established charities over the last couple of years who actually haven't got a business plan. They know what they want to do and they know what they want to achieve, but nobody's actually written it down, because actually business plans sound terribly formal and what have you. But I like to think of it as the story of your organisation, whether it's Beavers and school or heritage or sailing or whatever it is you're involved in. It's the story of who you are. It brings out your personality. So I tried to get it down to 10 tips, but I'm afraid I've got to 12. I would say your first tip is make sure you know why you're writing your business plan. As Shannon said, it might be for funding. It might be just to tell your team, your staff, your volunteers, your trustees, what it is you do, how you do it, and why you're doing it. It might be just to let the people around you know, that your community know. So your audience will determine how you write your business plan. Is it going to be terribly formal with lots of jargon, or is it going to be much more community-based and easy to read? Is it going to be, I mean, a business plan can be a sort of 2-pager if you really condense it, but it can be, I mean, most of the ones I write are about 15 pages or so, but I do put lots of pictures and things in. You can use your business plan to demonstrate to potential funders and stakeholders what you do, what your plans are. So although I totally agree with Shannon that you need to put some financial information in, there will be confidential information to your organisation that you might not want to put in your business plan. You might want to have a separate budget and, I don't know, risk assessment or whatever. So sometimes it's a good idea to write your business plan as that really high strategic level view of your organisation, and to have that day-to-day operational stuff, your detailed budget, your detailed risk assessment held somewhere else. I think it was the first thing that Shannon said. Don't create your business plan in isolation. You might be the one person who knows exactly what your organisation does and why it's doing it, but actually your staff, your volunteers, the people who are using your service, the people who are already supporting you will also have ideas, and it's really important to get them involved, not only for their perspective, but really more importantly for their buy-in. And ask them to give you honest and useful feedback. Quite often I will hold roundtable events. I'll get people together and we'll look at what the mission and the vision and the values are, and then we'll build the business plan, and you can do it in a sort of half-day session, and it's a really good team building opportunity. But make sure it's a safe space so that everybody feels willing to contribute and say, actually, I don't think we should be doing that. You know, that's a bit of mission creep. Your business plan is a great way of stating exactly what it is you do. There is often a tendency when funding bids come in, you know, that you go off track. You think, oh God, there's a pot of money that is easy to get because it's geographically based, but it means we've got to do something that's not quite within our aims and objectives. Use your business plan to go back to check, does this funding, does this project that we're thinking of running, does that meet with what we originally set out? It doesn't mean you should dismiss this new project, but it just gives you something to think about. Make sure that your business plan uses everyday language that's relatable and relevant. Don't pepper it with technical language if you don't need to, and don't use acronyms that only you're going to understand. I use a lot of business plans to write funding bids for organisations, and if I can't understand what it is they do or they're trying to do, then no, the funder won't be able to understand what your ambitions are. It should be a document that everyone, whether they are sort of, you know, the highly technical person or Fred who lives next door, understands and can relate to. I was working on something the other day, and the people were putting in lots of technical terms. It's an environmental one, they're using biodiversity and net zero, which is great if you're in that field. But actually using terms such as improving the environment for the enjoyment of our community and the welfare of health and plants and animals makes a lot more sense to. You've got a lot of people who are sitting on grants committees looking at your funding bids, i.e. your business plan, may not have this technical language, and they just want to know really simply what it is you do. I like in business plans using pictures of what you do to really sort of bring your organisation to life, and graphics of, you know, we've helped 75% of people do this, that and the other. If you've got charts and things, it just breaks up text quite a bit. Tell the story of your organisation. Again, you know, somebody reading your business plan may not have ever heard of your organisation or what it is you're trying to do. Make sure that it tells the story, it brings your organisation to life. Make sure you state what you do, but focus on the impact. So rather than saying, I don't know, Francis, we offer sailing lessons to 25 children. What you could rephrase it as 25 children joined our sailing groups and have become proficient sailors, and they are comfortable in the water. You know, it's explaining the impact. I'd written, we helped 50 people successfully find work that met their abilities and expectations through our Work Right programme. So it's important that you show the difference that it's made to the individuals, as well as what the actual outcome is, the impact and the outcome. Yeah, so rather than just saying that we help 50 people into work, it's about that they reported that this improved their household income, enabling them to meet bills, reducing stress. They felt happier, healthier, and more confident as a result of our intervention, was better able to manage their lives and connect with families. So it's really important you tell the impact and what you've achieved. Do your research, use real data. There's loads of data. CCF Vital Signs is a fantastic source of data that has been verified. I do use AI sometimes, ChatGPT or Copilot or whatever, but if you are using that, make sure you verify what they've told you, because they're not always right, and sometimes stats are misleading. So if you like AI, do use it, but just check what you're putting in. You need to know who else is working in your field and what they do. If you can explain how you're different, where you overlap, and how you work together or could work together. It's okay if you are doing the same thing as another charity. It may be because there's so much demand you need more than one organisation who delivers this, or it could be, I came across an organisation the other day who was doing very similar work to another organisation very close to them, and when I said, well, isn't there a sort of conflict of interest here? And they said, well, no, not really, because some people come to us, they prefer our approach. We're doing very similar thing, but we approach it in a slightly different way. So it's your unique selling point. What makes you different from the charity just down the road who's doing something very similar? That might be for your Beavers group. There might be another Beavers group 5 miles away. What makes you different? But recognising that there are similarities. Set realistic goals. You need to be ambitious when you're setting your ambitions, you're building your action plan and your budget, but make sure that they're achievable. Funders see an awful lot of grant applications, and they will know, that if sort of you say you're going to see 6,000 people in 6 months, and they're all going to have one-to-ones, we know that with a team of 5 people, that's totally unachievable. So make sure that you are ambitious, you're pushing yourself, but you know that you can achieve what you are setting out to do. Be honest about your financial projections and growth expectations. And it's okay to say you're going to stay the same. We're not businesses, we're not big businesses aiming to make massive profits every year. We're aiming to deliver service to the people we're supporting. So it's okay to say you're going to stay the same, or actually because of various conditions we're going to get smaller. But the most important thing is to be honest. It's better to be honest and overachieve than be wildly optimistic and fail. Talk about your team and their strengths. If you've got a small team and you want to name them individually, it just makes that whole business plan more personal. Shannon talked about, putting in a bit about trustees, but actually if you've got key members of staff, or you might just want to include a little case study about Mary who went over and above and did this for a particular, if they're happy to have a little case study, it just again brings your business plan to life and really makes it reflect who you are. Make sure you've got a marketing plan in there, how you're going to reach your target market and keep them. It doesn't have to be a fancy media campaign. It could be just some flyers and posters, a little bit of activity on social media, or emails to the referral agencies you're talking to, but just make sure that in your business plan that you're referencing how you are going to let people know what you're doing. Plan your finances. As I said, you might want to keep the detail out of your actual business plan that you're putting out there. But it's really important that you do have a detailed business plan for 3 to 5 years. So year one will be in detail how much money you're going to get in and how much money you're going to spend. Again, it's okay to have a deficit budget if you can demonstrate that you've got some reserves that might plug it. I mean, otherwise, if you're not forecasting a deficit budget, why are you going out for more funding unless you're planning on expanding? So it's all of that explaining why you're doing what you're doing. So year one needs to be in quite a bit of detail, but years 2 and 3 needs to have a general, are you planning on increasing your income? And then you'll be able to need to back that up by, we've got an ambitious funding plan that we are going to go out to grants and trust, or we've got an amazing sponsored walk that we're going to run next year that's going to bring in £20,000 and etc. It's just sort of an overview. I don't think any funder will come back and say, well, you said in your business plan that you were going to do this and you haven't done it. It's just showing that you're thinking of how you're going to bring the money in and how you're going to spend it for the next couple of years. And again, picking up on something, my final point, probably the most important point that Shannon has already said, your business plan is a living document. It's how you're running your business. I really like the analogy of a roadmap, and that's how I always think of it. You wouldn't set out on a complicated journey that you've never been on before without looking at roughly where you're going and having a pretty good idea. I mean, I always tend to sort of think, right, I'm going to have a break there, so I know the road to there, and then I'll figure it out from there. And that's very much your business plan. It's where are you going? What is the destination in 3 to 5 years? And how are you going to get there? And then you should be reviewing it regularly. It's not something that you write and then you stick up on a shelf or file it online. You should be using it. There should be an action plan in there that you're using, probably monthly, and just checking, are we on track? We said we were going to get in another £5,000 in the sort of June to September time. Have we achieved that? If not, why not? We said we were going to start this project in October. Have we started it? Are we on track? It's your roadmap and your check that you're on the right way. And I think that's about it. Just make it a document that reflects your organisation and where you're going. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be lots of different pages, but you do need a business plan.
Thanks, Jill. I think that was really good to show sort of our parallels between what could be within the business plan. But one thing I suppose I've really wanted to highlight is when you mentioned about it being just standard English, clear, simple language, because it can be thought of that it needs to be this complex, jargon-filled business plan. It's very serious and complex and developed, but actually it needs to be readable by anyone. And so actually sometimes complexity is a downfall. And I suppose the idea of then this session was to show we're not looking for complex, we're looking for what works for you and what makes it very clear to us that you have thought about exactly what you're going to do, what your core values are, how are you going to go about it, what's your plans for the future, how do you know you're financially sustainable for that future. Yeah, and some pictures as well. It's nice because we get to see you, and that'll become relevant. I'm doing a impact reporting workshop soon, just to see how you can add that flavour to your undergrad reports as well. Because it's not just a thing that a chore that we make you do. It's a way to actually really show your impact and you as a as a community group. So just to add in on here, I will send the slides at the end, but some resources to take away. I always love it when it's an actionable. I can go and read something about this now, and sort of picked relevant resources that are relevant to more charitable business plans, because of course you've got your profit-making business plans can have different complexities, whereas these are quite specific to charities, CICs, community groups. And why it matters? Well, it helps trustees and staff stay focused and aligned, especially if you're all writing it or adapting it together. You've then all been gone together with that core. You're aligned in what you want to achieve because you've made it together. Again, it can have those different uses. It's very specific for today. Reassures funders and donors that the charity is well run. We know that you have thought about not only what you're doing now, where you're going to next, and provides a framework for making decisions and measuring success. If you're thinking back to, okay, what is our impact? How do we know that? Well, it's going to help you measure that impact throughout and gives you something to reflect back on. So it's very much that working, living, breathing document that, yes, has core elements to it of what it wants to achieve, but it's your document. You can put your hat on of, right, what does CCF want to see? So hopefully that's shown a flavour of what we want to see, but more importantly, why we want to see it. This isn't a extra documentation for every fund from now on, not at all. This is only for any opportunities that are multi-year funding. How that will develop from this point, we don't know. I can't guarantee we'll have X amount of multi-year funding, but it's something we're trying to develop, and so something we want to give the skills to you guys for. How can I support? So I also do one-to-one support sessions. If you wanted to talk further about this, you can book a session with me. You can ask about CCF funds. You can have support with a current application, get feedback if you've been unsuccessful. So much you could use it for. Book a one-to-one session. Signing up to our newsletter is a great way to just keep up to date with the funds that we have. If any multi-year funding opportunities come, that would be a great way to find out. Join a workshop, which you've already done. Awesome, thank you, but there's plenty more coming through. If you've ever got any ideas if you want a certain workshop, let me know. And then I also come to drop-in sessions about once a month. I'm all around the county, so yes. That is it from me and Jill, thank you. I suppose, any questions?